So it's the International Day of UN Peacekeepers. Could you tell us your story and how it's led you to doing the work that you're doing today?
Well, I'm a mother of 4 children, and my oldest son, Breck, loved gaming, technology, computers, science, and he would, of course, game with friends from school. And there was one day when I was cooking dinner and I overheard an older-sounding voice within the gaming group, and I didn't recognize it as one of Breck's friends. And when I questioned him, he just said it was one of the guys. He ran the server. And I queried him and tried to get to know more about this person who didn't go to the same school as the other boys. I became worried because Breck's personality started to change, and he couldn't stop talking about this new friend he had made online. He was so impressed. And so I continued to monitor, and I began to think that Breck was being groomed. And I didn't know that much about grooming at the time. I knew it had to do with manipulation and control, and I felt that that's what was happening within the gaming group. I did everything I could during that time frame, speaking with teachers, school nurse, school librarian, school vicar. I talked to my son's tutor, but nobody saw him as being a vulnerable child because he was an everyday schoolboy who was pleasant, kind, clever, wasn't showing any vulnerabilities. And so I wasn't getting the advice that I needed. I even phoned the police to report my concerns, giving a lot of details about the person I was worried about. And basically told the police I thought that he was being groomed, I didn't know if it was for sexual exploitation, maybe radicalization, or maybe just to get the boys to hack into some computers. So I sort of felt like I was an overworried, paranoid parent because nobody was believing me or getting as alarmed as I was. But I was so worried that I kept pursuing and even met up with other parents. And we had an intervention meeting with the boys, sitting them down, talking to them about our concerns. And they even had a sort of what was called an e-safety assembly at their school at the time. And when I asked Breck how it was, he just looked at me and he went, "So boring, Mom. It's so boring." Because it was rules, it was grown-ups telling them what to do, what they shouldn't do, and they just weren't taking it on board. I, at one point, thought everything was better because I forbade my son from talking to this person that I was so worried about. But the worst thing that happened then is that it went underground and became more secretive. And I didn't know it, but this predator sent Breck a secret phone so they could communicate secretly, and he was feeding a lot of misinformation and lies and befriending him, and I thought I had fixed the problem. So unfortunately, Breck was lured to the predator's flat where he was brutally murdered. And so as the police investigation unfolded in this most horrific time for our family, there were so many things that came out of Breck's story that I felt needed to be taught to the world, to children, to parents, to teachers, even to police. We learned so much. One of the things was understanding more about grooming and recognizing those signs. Another thing is where to go to report, where to get help. I didn't know about CEOP at the time, the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Agency. I didn't know they existed, and I should have because I worked within a school setting. I also learned that the predator was actually only 18 years old, and so for this reason, I don't think the boys considered him predatory because he was a teenager like they were. We think of a predator as being some creepy old man possibly, but actually it was a teenager like them. The other thing I learned, is people didn't recognize that boys can be groomed too, because there were a lot of news stories of girls being groomed by gangs. And so that's what people envisioned grooming being. So I think also recognizing that everyone's vulnerable. That means we're human. So I set up the Breck Foundation. I founded it so that we could kind of share Breck's story to help others. And originally, I thought it would just be about educating in schools. And so I educated in schools as much as I could, traveling around the UK and speaking out about all of the lessons that we had learned. it then moved on to sort of not just about awareness, but bringing up, educating children and the adults in their lives. And it's now turned into, campaigning, speaking out, and doing media as well. And I think so many parents are afraid of this is an extreme example, Brex is, but even their children having mental health issues or being bullied or facing any other dangers, being sent dangerous content, harmful content, parents are so worried. And I think that's why, that I continue my work, because I want to be able to get these messages out.
Well, thank goodness that you do. And I mean, we've known each other for a long time, and I've always been completely inspired, by everything that you do for other young people around the world. So, thank you on behalf of all of those people that I'm sure are very grateful that you've told your story and created opportunities for people to be able to be informed but inspired and then engaged. So well done. It's amazing work. So it's the International Day of UN Peacekeepers today. Your story is all about peacekeeping and peace building, and that's exactly what you do. And peacekeeping is, obviously it happens out there in the field, but today is also about the peace in our homes, communities, schools and places of work. And so to that point, how safe are children today? And is enough being done to protect them?
Well, the problem is there will always be new children having devices put in their hands. So it's a kind of a nonstop battle to continue to educate, and also new parents and new teachers, new police. So I feel that it's almost never ending. There are so many more resources available now, because back when I reported grooming, people weren't using that word. So it has definitely improved. But in saying that, there were several police forces that released statistics just this week that showed that pedophiles grooming children online through their gaming, through their social media, is on the rise, and a significant rise, up by 50 to 70%. NSPCC statistics show the same sort of trends, partly because children have learned to spend so much more time on their devices after the lockdown, and predators realized how many more children they can engage with, because that's where to find them. So I think there's so many issues, and with the cost of living crisis, a predator can offer, a child anything to enhance their life, and it's going to be enticing for them. As an example of Breck getting a brand new iPhone sent to him. I didn't buy my children iPhones. I couldn't afford that for 4 children. And so when Breck got that from the predator, it made it, it made it feel like a special friendship. So predators will do that, offering those gifts. So I think as much as we're all trying together collectively to make things better and safer, there's still so many platforms, new platforms and new apps that children have access to. It's a battle to keep them as a safe place. And I think one of the things that's so important is to ensure that the online safety bill that's being debated in Parliament at this time, it has to be all that it can be. We have to have the amendments go through. We have to have this safety put in place for children. The age assurance, a safety by design, creating apps and platforms that have those safety elements from the start, rather than trying to back the safety in, and making sure that the internet is the safest place that it can be for children.
Okay, so it sounds like there's an effort going on out there because of people like yourself pushing hard.
There's a lot of us pushing hard.
There's a lot of people pushing hard. So let's hope that everybody's listening, and as you say, the bill goes through exactly as you want it to. Could you talk about your work and the actual impact it's having?
Well, I think what was really one of the favorite things that I did in my job was to be speaking to a group of children at all different ages, and to see them engage. The Littlies were so fun to be kind of their introduction to what they're doing online and what they're going to do, and asking them a lot of questions. You get so many amazing, answers that really help you understand more about their world. But then speaking to the teenagers, and I'd come into the room, and I hated when teachers would introduce me as Lorin is here to talk about internet safety, you could just see their brains just shut right off. So I'd have to tell the teachers, just don't introduce me. Just say some lady is here and she's going to talk about her son. Because it would take me then a while to reach them, to engage with them. But I could do it because it was a real life story. It resonated with them. It was what, they might be seeing on their own online platforms within themselves or within their friends. And so that was one of the best moments that I would ever have, was when I could see those sort of teenagers kind of click and start to think, actually, this woman, even though she's a mom and an old lady, she's onto something, because I've experienced this too. And I think that impact that I've seen, and just the parents that have been so appreciative of having Breck's story and other children's stories as well to use as that platform for discussion, rather than just a list of rules that they'll just shut down on. So I think, the way we've evolved, the way we teach, is we want to involve young people, hear what they have to say. One of my favorite things are Breck ambassadors who do peer-on-peer training, because then they can talk the talk, and they all know what it's like being in their position and experiencing their lives through their social medias. So I think it's really interesting, but there's so much to do in this realm and so many people to collaborate with, and I've been so appreciative of the people that have wanted to do that, because really only together can we make the difference.
How safe are children today, and is enough being done to protect them?
Well, I think, what just came to my mind is one of the warmest moments when I was at a secondary school with teenage girls, and at the end of my speech, one came up and asked me if she could have a hug. Now, this was pre-COVID, and sure, who cares? In fact, I would do it now too. But the next one said, can I have a hug? And it ended up, the whole assembly, 100 girls, came and gave me a hug, because even though they weren't parents yet, they could feel the sense that I had, that I wanted to help them, that I wanted them to understand I wasn't trying to lecture. And I'll never forget some of those moments, and especially that one. It was amazing. But when you see other people working in these realms, and you just want to collaborate because they're just so full of fire. I mean, I think of Baroness Biben Kidron, who runs Five Rights, who tries so hard to make safer internet and working so hard with the online safety bill in Parliament. She's my inspiration and a ball of fire, and she just has it in her that she wants children to have the life we all want for our children, safe, healthy, and happy. And the bereaved parents that I've met through that group are also inspirational. And when we get together, there's just such a warmth, because we all want this for the rest of the children in the world. It's too late for our own. And working with them is just so inspiring, and really sort of helps to know that what we're doing is so necessary, not just for us, but for the people that we don't want to happen to their family.
Yeah. So finally, how can people help you and support the work that you're doing?
Well, I'd say awareness is it's just one of the words that's so important to me, because new parents and new teachers, there's so much that they have to learn about their work, about their life, about their families. And I just think anyone who's listening today, if we could just ask to talk to a handful of people about Breck's story, about other children's stories, and ways that we can engage and educate children to work to keep safer for themselves. We can't force safety upon them. We're trying with safer platforms and laws, but at the end of the day, a predator will find a way to get through to them. So we need the education there. And I just think the more we talk about these issues using Breck's and other children's stories, the more our children will understand that these aren't just worries that parents have. These are things that are really happening. And I think that's what's really important to me. And I know, funnily enough, Breck wasn't like Mr. on show. He would be probably freaking out that I've talked about him so much. But I also think he would be proud that I've tried so hard to have something good come out of his tragic story.
Yeah. And your website?
breckfoundation.org.
Okay,
And we
fantastic.
have a great team, and originally it was just me speaking, and now we have other people who speak just as well or better than I do about the subject, and it's just that is amazing to me that we've grown to the level that we have a whole team and not just me shouting to the world.
Well, Lorin, it's absolutely amazing to talk to you. You're a total inspiration to me, as you know, as I said earlier, and I think it's wonderful on a day which is all about peacekeeping and peace building. Then you're certainly doing that for the people who have listened to this today.
Yes, and I think it's so important when you think about our lives. We want peace on the internet. We want peace for our children on the internet and for ourselves. It's just like the real world, but out there, and it needs to be just as peaceful and just as inspiration and just as good as we want the rest of our lives to be. And I think it's really connected to me that I would love to see the digital world be more healthy, happy, safe, and peaceful.
Lorin, thanks a lot.
Thank you.